Hi, welcome back to the channel. I hope that everybody is doing well. I hope that everybody's having a good start to their week. I don't even know what today is. Tuesday. Oh yeah, it's a weird day because my kids don't have school today. And we all got to stay home and just have a family day. But I wanted to hop on here when I had the opportunity. I've had a lot of people ask me, was it hard to get preceptors or find clinical sites for my NP program? This video is going to be solely dedicated to that. Just tips on how to be successful in obtaining, different preceptors and clinical sites. I know that I spent the better part of a year so nervous that I would not get all my hours done in time, or that I wouldn't get all of my clinical sites that I needed to, like women's health or pediatrics or primary care, meet all of those requirements. Up until the last minute was searching for different clinical sites. So if it's possible, I'd like to help you so that you don't have to experience that level of anxiety that I did. Might have some tips that are useful for you if you are in that boat of starting to look for your clinical sites, or maybe you have been looking and you're not having any success. These are my tips for you and ways that you could be more successful in doing so. The saddest little note card ever of notes for myself, just to make sure I hit all the points that I wanted to go over with you guys. So first and foremost, I would say find out exactly what it is that your school requires of you. How many hours towards pediatrics or women's health or primary care? How many hours can be towards some sort of specialty? Like, for example, in my program, I could have up to, I think it was 90 hours of a specialty, and that would be factored under the primary care hours umbrella. Really find out what exactly it is that your school requires of you, so you know going forward what it is that you're asking of people or of your potential preceptors or clinical sites. Find out exactly how many hours that you can do each semester. Find out the minimum that is required for you to move on to the following, semester, and then find out the maximum that you can do, because you might find that you can actually do up to an additional 60 hours in that one semester. And if you've got the opportunity to continue on and do those additional hours, I say, yeah, definitely do it. Do as many as you can, as quickly as you can, because just get it done, right? I don't know why. My next tip of advice would be to start today. The second you are accepted into a nurse practitioner's program, I recommend that you start looking for your clinical sites. Even if it's not for a whole year ahead of time, you are allowed to still get those going and get those solidified, so you don't even have to worry in the future. So if you know what's required of you from your program and how many hours you can do each semester, then you can call these places even a year in advance. I need 180 hours of women's health. Are there any providers there that let students work with them? And if so, then it'd be like, okay, great, I have the form ready for you. Another point I guess I should have mentioned, find out what paperwork that your school needs from you to have filled out by your preceptors. So if you do have somebody that is a potential preceptor for you, be like, great, I'm going to email you that form that you have to do right now. And if they say something to you like, wow, this is so far in advance, why are you doing it so far in advance? Be completely upfront and straight about it. There are tons of students looking for hours, and I need to be guaranteed to get these clinical hours so I can graduate. Whatever. So the soonest that you can start looking, wow, I'm really hyped up about this, but I'm serious because the sooner the better, really. Anyway, moving on. So I have a list here of things that you could try basically to get your clinical sites or your preceptors. Some things that I did try, I think I did. I think I tried everything on this list. Well, we'll go through it. So I have a list of 9 things here, and maybe one, and I'll tell you why I didn't end up doing, but I considered it. So, and this is in no particular order, but these are some things that you could try to get some clinical sites. So number 1 is networking at your current job. I know this sounds obvious, but that's a huge connection that you have into the healthcare industry. So wherever it is that you're working, definitely network there, speak to other providers there, and see if anyone takes students and work on that. And then so the next one, I guess, is affiliated with networking at your current job, but this is specifically to the email system. So the hospital system that I worked at, we all had a hospital-wide work email. I could search different providers by specialty. You could just have access to so many different providers within your hospital system. And I actually did just go out and just email some that I were interested in working with, even though I didn't have a personal connection with them. But I thought maybe an email coming from another, work email might, one, make them more likely to open the email, and two, make them more likely to take me as a student because we worked in the same hospital system. Get a list from your school. So what you do is you contact your clinical advisor or whatever kind of advisor you have within your program and ask if they have a list of preceptors that were used in the past previously. Yeah, you get it. So like my school had a whole list of preceptors that had been used by previous students, and so you could reach out to them, and it might help a little bit because you know that they had already said yes once before and been affiliated with your school before. Also, you can try straight up cold calling places. I did this a ton. There's a lot of different specialty offices. I mean, you could think out of the box too, like Planned Parenthood or like a podiatrist or like definitely different specialties like ENT, just all these different opportunities out there, and I don't think any stone should be left unturned. Oh, and on the note of cold calling these places and knowing what you're going to say, make a list. Keep a list on your computer or something, and just save it and add to it every time of all of the sites that you called. This is what I did. I left the title of the facility or whatever the facility's name was, and then the phone number and whether or not they said no. Some of them would tell me, so many of them told me to try again later, so I would go back through and call these places back. And then, or you can put like, left voicemail or yes, it was successful, but just kind of keep a tally of so you're not being super redundant with the places that you're calling, and it'll just make your life easier. All right, so another idea is to join some Facebook groups. There are some out there. For example, I wrote one down, Michigan Preceptors for Nurse Practitioner Students. It is one that I joined when I was so desperately searching for a clinical site. There's tons of people in these groups that are mostly also looking for clinicals, but you hope that there's also people looking or offering to precept for other students there. So it's just something else to try. If you're not already in them, your class probably has a Facebook group. And so I would highly recommend finding out if your class does and joining that as well, because that's more connections, more opportunities to possibly get a clinical. All right, so another option and something that I did do that I ended up being successful with was I actually asked my own personal primary care doctor to be my preceptor for primary care hours, and it was super successful and an amazing experience. So I am fortunate enough to have a wonderful relationship with my primary care doctor, so hopefully you have something like that in your life too. But if you have a primary care, even if you don't love them, it might be worth calling. So the next one is one that I considered doing but I didn't end up doing. It is an option to you, and I don't want to skip over it because if you're desperate enough and you really can't find anywhere, there is a way to purchase a precept. I don't know how to phrase that in a way. You're not actually purchasing a human, obviously. You're paying for somebody else to find you a clinical or a preceptor, essentially. And so, for example, one of the ones that I looked into was called NP Hub. And you can just Google it and you'll find it. The issue I had with it was super expensive. So it's an option to you. I can't remember exactly. I think it was over $1,000. It wasn't cheap. So it is an option if you get desperate enough and you have the means to do so. You can look into purchasing somebody else or paying for somebody else to find you a preceptor. The next one I have here, go ahead and Google nurse practitioners near me, or you can just specifically go through NP Finder through AANP, so the American Association of Nurse Practitioners. They have an NP Finder, and if you go through there and you can look at all these local nurse practitioners, and they have all their contact info there, and it might be worth just going down that roster and seeing if anyone will have you as a student through that route. It's really all about numbers. The more you try, the more likely you are going to find someone that will have you as a student. Yeah, so that's really all I have for a list of ideas and tips to being successful and getting your clinicals. I hope that it's helpful for you. Number one, remember to get yourself organized, find out exactly what's required of you for your program, how many hours you need of each specialty, and minimum and maximum hours that you can do each semester. And then start looking for preceptors as soon as you're accepted into an NP program or as soon as possible after that if it's already too late and that's already gone and over with. I did not personally look as soon as I started my NP program, and I still did it on time. I still made it on time, so I'm not saying it's not possible, but oh my god, I would have saved myself a lot of heartache and anxiety had I just looked right when I got accepted into the program. If you have any questions for me, go ahead and leave them down below. I will be happy to help. Hopefully this was helpful to you. Let me know. And as always, I wish you guys the very best. Take care.